in reality, the app market is a mess right now. It's really, really difficult for indie developers to succeed. And, you three are the lucky ones. You've got a lot of traction around your companies, huge revenue from GREE, celebrities, long-standing brand of Mice Game Monsters. So put yourself in the shoes of, our audience, the people who are just now launching, whether that's LTV, increasing LTV, whether it's, something with user acquisition that they can take away from this conversation, a more effective way of monetizing. If you could talk to them and tell them one way to succeed right now, what would it be?
That's a tough one. There's so many directions you could go. I think when it comes to just a snippet of each, you can talk about data and you can talk about culturalization and you can talk about working with brands, but in the very end, what you need is a good game. I mean, that's the core of it, right? You need a fun game, and that's the obvious answer, right? So based off of that, when it comes to user acquisition, and I'm sure a lot of people will disagree with me, but my approach for someone who's just starting out, has a game, has a little budget, is to really be careful how you spend. Don't worry so much about the incentive. Don't worry about the charts. Make sure you get a good user base, high quality user base, people who are engaged in your game and are enjoying your game. Once you have that user base, that's when you get the momentum, you get the snowball effect. That's when you start seeing increased LTVs, and you can basically take the revenues and then reinvest into the game and then grow and grow, and then suddenly you have the snowball effect. It isn't the fastest way, but it's going to be the safest and really probably the richest way to grow a game. And really, I think that's really kind of the basis. How to increase monetization? Again, I think it's core game, has to be fun. From there, you look at the hooks. How do you bring in monetization to the game rather than the other way around? I think a lot of people worry too much about making money rather than having a fun gameplay experience. You throw the monetization hooks on top of the gameplay experience, and then it kind of solves itself. And then ad revenue, a lot of people don't look at that, but it really is important. And striking that balance between showing ads in a way that doesn't wreck the gameplay experience, but also being able to add to the bottom line for revenues. And there's a number of ways to go about that, and I could talk about 45, 50 minutes just into that, so I'll leave it at that.
This is something that I think the industry kind of gets caught up on, so it's a great question. When we're building for either a new audience or an existing audience, the thing that I find unifies every aspect of the game development process around building a great gameplay experience is just focusing on what customers will value, right? Like, no one will pay for something they don't value. People will pay for something they value. And if you do it right, people will pay for a long time against something that they really enjoy, right? That's definition of what we do, is creating things that are delightful, things that people value over all other things. And if you kind of align everything around that, you can get it done. And then my advice to designers is, there's kind of two dimensions in abstract that are just really easy ways to think about getting to fun, getting to that value. Just quantity and quality on every aspect. There's always a quantity measure, like number of active users. Then there's also a quality measure, like revenue per DAU or something like that. And you can look at every output metric and break it down that way and decide what you want that aspect of the game to be all about. Is this just about a small number of users that's super engaged, or is it about a large number of users and it's a more generalized experience? And then you can make strong design choices and follow it through with good metrics analysis.
Yeah, there's a lot. If you're an indie developer, taking it from a small amount of users, sometime to blowing it out is definitely a difficult thing. And when you're looking at your LTV, there's a lot of different things to consider. But one thing that I've recently become a fan of is when you do these paid beta releases. Because you start building news around your game right away. And if you're, a smaller studio, if you could start building that community right away and get people to be supportive of what you're doing, and each time you release an update, they're spending money on you, and then they're talking about you, and then you're like, oh, you're getting great feedback, you put out an update, and you just keep doing that, and essentially they help fund your project. That's really great for indies. And sometimes, bigger firms will just wait for the big splash, for that big press hit. But this is, that other, there's a lot to say about that other method, so that might be one thing to try out. I know with us, with LTV, monetization is very important. Retention is very important, and so is virality. And so we've we're always looking for, why is this innovative? We're looking for those lucrative customer segments. Why are they having fun? What do they want to do in our game? But the creative always comes first. It's always like, where's that inspiration? And you want it to resonate with people at the very core first. And if you could find that out, you just kind of take the pulse of the community. You listen. You adapt. You just keep iterating and just build those relationships. With everybody.